Welcome to the Microcast, the short-form podcast from Microcosm Coaching, where we break down the science, strategy, and psychology behind smarter endurance training. Each week, we tackle a key concept in running, training, or recovery, and we give you practical tools you can apply right away, whether you're building back, leveling up, or chasing down a big goal. We keep it short, evidence-based, and grounded in real coaching experience. No hype, no fluff, just actionable insights to help you train sustainably and perform at your best. Let's get into it.
Over the next few weeks, we're going to introduce you to a few other Microcosm coaches on our podcast, so you can hear a little bit from them on who they are and what they're about.
My name is Kyle Jones, and I became a coach specifically to share my passion and love of running and doing big things. As master's athlete and a little bit of an older athlete, I have a passion for doing things that I never once thought that I could do. And so I want to be a coach to help others pursue their big dreams and goals and do things they never once thought was possible, even at this later stage in their life. I love to coach specifically master's athletes who have recommitted themselves to achieving their goals, experiencing new endeavors, or undertaking something they never thought was possible with specifically a passion, a focus, and energy. I come with a mindset that it's never too late, and I would love my athletes to have that same vision, that same passion there where they dive in and it's all in, and it's about a lifestyle, not just a hobby. As a coach, I love to help my athletes solve two basic problems that I feel like I can do very, very well. One of those is helping the master's athlete accrue the needed volume and training while staying injury-free through sustainable and durable training programs. Being a master's athlete myself, I really have a focus on helping my athletes get to where they want to go. I also feel like I'm really, really good at helping my athletes solve the problems of ultra running beyond just the training. There's so many other aspects to trail running and ultra running, including shoes and packs and vests and gear and poles and nutrition and hydration and strategy. And I feel like I am really good at simplifying all of that, because all of those small things add up to be a pretty significant factor come race day. It's never too late. And I use the term all in as well. So whatever the dream or goal, I want to share the mindset of it's never too late to be who you are and do the things that you want to do, because I'm super high energy. I bring a high level of stoke to my training process with my athletes. So what I have in common with my athletes is an all-in mentality. I love that training is not a hobby, it's more of a lifestyle for me. My athletes are people that go all in, that put all their energy and focus and stoke and attention into their training so that they can accomplish the things that they want to accomplish and live the life they want to live. I help master's athletes become who they've always wanted to be.
All right, we're back.
Good morning.
An early Wednesday morning recording. First time ever.
Wednesday. Actually, I don't know if it's the first time. I've had a cold, so this is the first day this week that I've actually had a operational human voice. I've had to do like a bunch of client calls with athletes this week with my Kermit the Frog voice, so shout out to everyone for bearing with me. And
it's different.
It's different.
It's a different voice.
It's a different voice.
But
Monday was pretty rowdy.
Go to Italy and come back with
an exotic cold.
Yes, and it's the same thing that happened last year.
For you.
For me.
Yeah.
Your dad got me very sick last year.
It happens every time we go to Italy.
Awesome.
That was tough. It's tough. Turns out that racing will limit your immune system's function. That's okay. It's part of it. I made it through the training block healthy, so that was my A goal.
Speaking of racing, I heard that you signed up for Cocodona.
Yeah, I'm going to do Cocodona. I got a last minute entry. I'm really excited because I've always wanted to do a 250-mile race through the Arizona desert and force you to miss a week of work so that I can complete a foot race. So I hope that you guys all enjoy following along on my training journey as I train to complete the Cocodona 250.
And there's going to be a YouTube video series.
Yeah,
on
I'm
this
also
epic
going
event?
to, pivot from podcasting to be a full-time YouTuber. So I'll be covering every second of my training and recovery via a GoPro that will be strapped to my head and facing inwards.
We had a divorce clause about the 250
I guess
thing.
this is when we're also going to announce our divorce. So if you're a single man looking to crew me for a full business week at Cocodona, now's your opportunity.
Oh, all right. Everyone knows we're just totally joking here because it's Wednesday, April 1st.
Fools, yay!
But we did just come back from a really fun race in Italy.
Did that scare you when I put it in the podcast notes?
It didn't. I just decided to run with it. I'm working on my yes and skills.
Yes, that was brilliant. And scene.
And scene.
And
scene?
Scene.
You're scene.
No, and scene.
Is that how it goes?
That's
and
how
scene.
You conclude the scene.
Got it. Okay. Well, I will remember that for next time. I get the lingo down.
Did I hear you're going to do the improv class?
I'm really considering it.
Amazing. I can't wait. You're going to be such a good... It's starting imminently.
Oh, okay. Better get that on my calendar. Yeah. So we've got a big call today, a big show.
Big show.
I got to stop using the word call here.
Yeah, it's not a call.
It's not a call. Is this
it's
a call?
Podcast. No.
Feels like a call.
There's not a phone being used at all. I don't know why it's a call.
It's a show. What are we getting into? Let's walk the audience through.
We are going to do some hot or nots. We've had these piling up in the inbox and in the comment section. So thanks to everyone. Rapid fire who sent these in. We're going to try to do it as quick as possible, but knowing me, you might as well sign up for Cocodona, folks. Then we are going to answer a listener question that we're going to debrief on my Chianti race. We've had a lot of people checking in. I think that there are, it's absolutely not going to be a therapy session for me. The intention is to share my perspective of the race and then to extrapolate that into takeaways for the listeners at home rather than getting into the
how I want to
just specifics.
I think how I would like to approach it is this is how we go through a post-race analysis with our athletes.
Yeah.
What really matters, getting to the heart of the performance to create, genuine takeaways and an actual review of the race, which is helpful for both the coach and the athlete.
Exactly. Also, you have some roster spots open. Do you wanna give this a shout out?
Well, I might have one roster spot open for a very special somebody.
Yes.
But yeah, actually,
that sounds like you're looking like for The Bachelor or something.
Well, considering you're doing Cocodona,
shall I give my rose?
No, I'd be excited to work with somebody who's really committed over the long term to making some, really tangible progress towards their goals. And it doesn't matter. It's not necessarily an elite athlete. It's somebody who's just committed to the process and to the time that it actually takes to get better.
Yeah.
And something that we really advocate for here is a long-term approach to training.
Right.
And, these training gains, the progress, the growth, it takes place over years, to be honest. And I feel like sometimes I feel trepidation mentioning that because it's not a great marketing ploy. It's you have to commit to years of this.
Reality is terrible marketing.
Right.
But if you Google, it's just so, it is this fundamental sort of tension in the universe is that fundamentally what most people in the training marketplace think they want is at odds with exercise physiology,
right?
Basic exercise physiology. So if people listen to this podcast, they're at least more on the exercise physiology and reality side of things than the I went to 12-week training plan to get ready for Cocodona side of things.
And the reason why you're able to do Cocodona is because you've been training for a decade now,
and I can walk so hard.
As a result of all that training, your walking pace is so fast.
I am a kick-ass walker.
You're a great walker.
I've actually had people in multiple races be like, "You're such a good walker."
Damn, you walk so
Savage.
well. Have you ever tried out for the Olympic walking team?
I have once done that, and then I was like, I think I'm going to shatter my pelvis. Not tried out for the Olympic, but I was like, oh, let's give this, I watched a YouTube tutorial on the speed walking because I feel like all the ladies that do that sport seem really badass.
Yeah.
And then I tried it for 90 seconds and I thought my pelvic floor was going to rip in two. So.
So what we're saying is if you'd like to be able to push yourself that hard as well, just kidding. Healthy well-being front of mind here.
Healthy pelvic floors only.
Yeah. I mean, our community is all about athletic growth
Yes.
and growth as human beings through that process over years. So if that sounds like you, reach out to us.
Yeah, and really getting one-on-one attention and working deeply with a coach who understands you as a human, not just a set of like data or a spreadsheet or whatever.
That's right. And we're going to go into the human side of your race.
Probably going to get a little too human, so buckle up.
Maybe before we get into these hot or nots, I did something new at Chianti.
What'd you do?
I evented a race.
Oh yeah, how was that for you?
And that was real different.
Yeah.
I have been kind of anti-event for me, you know.
Define eventing from your perspective.
Eventing is when you sign up for a race with the express purpose
of not competing.
I
call this joyriding.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Do you ever talk to your athletes about joyriding?
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes if like, you know, someone is like, I'm training for a 100, but I got this like free entry to a trail marathon. If it works in their schedule, it's like, awesome. Maybe we can pop that in the place of a long run, but we don't really want to like taper or go to the well. So we'll like really expressly not resolve a ton of fatigue before the event, not use it as a super concerted push, maybe a focused effort, or really maybe just like a time on feet type of thing where the intention really is to like just kind of use it as a facilitated long run and emphasis on the joy of it too.
I love that and that actually is a great way of describing kind of like what my goals were for this. And that was a really new thing for me. I've actually in the past, if I couldn't compete hard,
you wouldn't go.
I just would not start the race and I would just remove the goal from my like list of goals for the season and regroup and move on.
Was it hard to like roll into the elite corral with freaking Francesco Pupi and be like, I can't wait to joyride this mofo?
You know, it's so funny because at these events, the pace of the start of the race is so fast compared to anything that I've done in the US.
Yeah.
And I haven't done like
Europeans
canyons.
Are wild, man.
I haven't done canyons or black canyons or gone and done, I've done Western states, but it's an uphill start. It's not that fast.
I mean, even still like
these European races, especially this race had a downhill start.
Yeah.
And it went out fast. And I was like averaging something like 6-minute mile pace.
Yeah.
And so were like 100 other people.
Yes.
And that's wild.
Yeah.
And like, Francesco and all of these other elites who are just much faster than me at this distance. They were all distances.
Although
the gap
you guys
is much
haven't
smaller.
Raced at Cocodona, so there's always that.
But Francesco and I did race at what's the one in Lake Sonoma. And the gap was much smaller between where he finished and where I finished in that race.
Coming for you, Francesco.
Coming for you, man.
Cocodona 2027, baby.
That'll never...
USA.
That'll never happen. Different physiology here. But they are rolling out, like, even faster than that.
Yeah.
And that, mean, that's just a crazy experience.
It was crazy to see.
And when you're, like, thinking about this as a long run, you're kind of not thinking about, like, going 6-minute pace.
Yeah.
But the crowd, kind of just, like you have to go or you're going to die. Yeah, you're going to get trampled over by everyone behind you. So it was it was a pretty interesting experience. It was new for me, something that I'm trying because I'm navigating weird health stuff and it's been a tough season for me.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to put the pressure of competition on mostly my psychology, really. And it opened my eyes to something that I have facilitated for athletes over years. Like many people want to come and just do events.
Yeah.
And not be competitive. That's very much not me.
Right.
But I
feel like,
know.
I mean, I can't even like crew you. You've banned me from crewing you at your races sometimes because I get like Munchausens by proxy, but for competition, and I like Hulk out and have zero chill, like even though I am literally not running.
Yeah. So I don't know. It was the I think it was I didn't not want to race.
Yeah.
Because we're going all out, we were going all the way out there.
The course is
The
awesome.
course is really cool. It's really challenging. It's much different than the running we do out here. I mean, the weather compared to last year was so great. Like, it just was like, oh, you gotta do a long run, you know? Like, my big race, if I'm healthy enough, is in a few weeks at Canyons.
Yeah.
And hey, you know, get that long run in. And it was a great way to do that. So
did you have fun? Was joy experienced? There
was some joy, you know, not as much as I would like, but I think the interesting thing for me is that we have so many athletes that do this, and I think it can be a really effective tool if your goals are really clearly defined. You know, the thing is to go out and do a long run, to get a harder than you would. Like, I ran harder than I would normally run for 4 hours. Right. But also kind of given my situation with my health and my mental health over these past couple months, it wasn't appropriate for me to go and do a long race, to do a hard race, to really send it. And so was joy had? I think that's a good question. There were more moments of joy than I've experienced in most of my training recently.
Yeah.
So I really noted that as a positive.
How much of that was being in Italy and getting your Eat, Pray, Love on?
I think that had a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
You know, I've been trying different things to kind of get myself out of this slump. And, you know, I went to Alaska, went skiing. That didn't really work. That kind of made things worse. You know, I've tried stuff at work to just I don't know, have more time to rest. I've backed off my training substantially. And I think sometimes when you're in a slump or on a plateau or you have some health stuff going on, you kind of have to throw the kitchen sink at everything.
Right.
And almost going to Italy was part of that.
Right.
As soon as I got there.
It's like a mental and emotional AED.
Yeah. Yeah. As soon as I got there and the weather was nice and it was just hard to have a bad attitude about it.
Yeah.
And that, to me, that helps. So now I'm kind of going into this next phase with a little more pep in my step.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yay. Italy.
And maybe, you know, there will be more joy to the experience. And I hope so.
There's very few things that racing under the Tuscan sun and drinking a few Aperol Spritz can't fix, in my assessment.
All right, let's do our rapid fire hot or not, and then get into the rest of the call here. So first one here is the stretch board for calf Achilles stretching. Ooh, we have one of these.
We do, because I had a gnarly... I had plantar fasciitis for a year and a half.
That's how it always goes.
It was crazy. And then this is I'm not sharing this as if it's true. This is my experience, and I'm very skeptical of it, by the way. But I had plantar fasciitis for a year and a half. Nothing was working. I ran Rio del Lago 100 miler, gone.
And it
forever.
Just went away.
IDK, man.
That's how it works. That's how that injury recovery works.
I think it's I find I really rested, and then afterwards I integrated more strength training to that.
Just a joke. See a PT, please.
But there is some evidence that an incline board like this can increase dorsiflexion and range of motion more effectively than a flat surface stretching by targeting the gastroc and the soleus through a greater range. So that is a genuine use for the incline board.
Yeah. I will say I really like stretching on ours. But I think the amount of times I've used it, since you got it before Rio del Lago, I feel we use it once a year.
I used to jam at my standing desk, and I would just because this was back when I had an issue, so I used it more. I haven't tossed it. Sometimes Bowie naps on it, which is kind of cute. But I would stand at my standing desk and just keep my lower legs loose. So the Alfredson eccentric heel drop protocol, which is also performed on an incline, but you can use your stairs for this, is one of the most well-supported interventions for Achilles tendinopathy. I've also had Achilles tendinopathy. Lower leg stuff is so common. Load-based stretching drives tendon remodeling, but passive stretching alone does not. So that's kind of one of the challenges of if you think you're just going to be stretching your calves that, depending on the issue, may not be enough to actually remedy the underlying issue. So for healthy athletes, there's really not a ton of evidence that static calf stretching alone reduces injury risk. The bigger bang is going to come from eccentric loading, like weighted calf drops or that Alfredson protocol. Typically, tight calves and lower leg issues, and this was the case for me and for many other athletes, usually as a result of compensatory loading further up the chain, weak knees, weak hips. So dorsiflexion work does have downstream relevance for runners, but most often the sort of like the underlying root cause of lower leg issues is further up the chain.
So I kind of give it a lukewarm.
Lukewarm?
Yeah.
I got that one for free.
Nice. That
Big
was when you're at
caveat.
Trail Runner.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I like hit up Jay Dickery and I was like, what up, homie?
All right. Packaged Rice Krispie treats as a carb-rich food fueling option for ultras. So I think this is really interesting. One standard Rice Krispie treat delivers 27 to 30 grams of carbs, mostly from sugar.
One never second gel.
Right. And these things, okay, so
they're not that small.
It's glucose plus fructose from marshmallows. So it hits both of those intestinal transport pathways.
Yep.
Where, that's what we want. It's low fiber, low fat, low protein. So faster gastric emptying. Okay. That sounds all good to me. I think one of the real issues I have with this is the palatability. One,
they're physically hard to eat.
It's very sweet, and they're kind of like a brick.
And
they're really dry.
Yeah.
So it could be very hard to chew this up later in a race. It might make sense early in a longer race if you want to mix things up. But I think logistically speaking, these could be, at least for me, this would feel pretty hard.
It might be a solution in search of a problem here.
Yeah.
I think if you can eat this and it sparks joy for you, awesome. Again, it's about the same bang for your buck as like one gel. If you're having palatability issues or like the texture is the thing, like again, maybe there's nothing about the macro composition that raises red flags. It really is the just like, I mean, I feel like I have a hard time chewing and swallowing these guys at rest, but if you can,
seriously,
like, get it, girl.
I think I'm going to go not hot on this just because of that logistical issue. Like, it's just so hard to chew these.
I'm going to say if you can and you do, then great, because like it
is on individual.
Paper makes sense. Individual.
Right. And this is actually like a good sports nutritional food here, like 27 grams of carbs.
Maybe better for like biking. Would be my inclination, just because it's like a little easier.
Cocodona, maybe.
Cocodona for sure. I'll be eating, I guess I would have to eat like 3 of those an hour. So very cool.
Okay. Another hot or not we have, and this is I can't wait to hear your take on this. Using a Ziploc bag to hold the ice in your ice bandana. And this was suggested on Reddit as a way to prevent water from seeping into your shorts and causing chafing in your nether regions.
So this is all vibes, baby. I'm going to say not hot. Like, to me, the water that comes out of ice is a feature, not a bug.
I agree with that.
I want to be wet. Like, my team name at Western States was team #StayWet and still is.
Get wet.
That's our get wet, stay wet. And so like, I don't mind the wet. That's what I am looking for by using the ice. And then if you have a Ziploc bag in your bandana, you're carrying heavy water around that's no longer really keeping you cool and it's unable to evaporate. So I like if chafing is a huge issue for you, like maybe this is a good solution. I would start at the root, and like I really like this. I have like a spray lube that I like called Skin Slick that you can like literally get on Amazon. It's like a tiny red can. I would just coat any problem areas, guys and gals and non-binary excellent athletes, like just Skin Slick that stuff. I mean,
I think this is very clear. It's not hot for me.
Yeah.
Get wet. Stay wet.
Yeah.
And if you know that there's certain areas that chafe, you can put KT tape on them or just, actively reapply your body glide throughout the race. I think that really helps. When I did Western States, that was the wettest I've ever been.
Yeah.
Most consecutive wetness ever in my whole life. Like literally 18 hours of wetness.
That's actually
And-
the worst my feet have ever been in a
Yeah.
race, because you're just getting soaked all day, and then the water like streams down your legs into your feet. So like even more than like mountain races I've done with tons of water crossings, that was actually for me an unexpected, a thing I didn't anticipate at Western States, was like how consistently wet my feet were going to be.
Sometimes it's just part of the situation. And,
Yeah.
you know, one of the things that I have athletes do who do train for these races where they're going to use active cooling, practice
Mhm.
with that active cooling, practice your long runs wet,
Yes.
see if there are any chafing
Identify those
problem
problem
areas.
areas.
Yeah. Okay. Hybrid athletes, hot or not?
Okay, my whole thing is like, this doesn't exist. Every athlete's a hybrid athlete. What are you talking about?
Right?
I like whatever. I won't be goaded into some bad faith argument about
I will.
high rock. I don't acknowledge high rocks. I'm not interested in it.
I don't know what that is.
It's a sport that like, it's if going to the gym was a sport, great,
Isn't that called like CrossFit?
but it's different somehow.
Oh.
But it's also the same to me, to my untrained eye. You know what? Do whatever you want, man. Like, to me, the category of hybrid athlete is literally just made up so that single people have one more thing to put in their Hinge bio.
When I think of hybrid athlete, and I didn't look up the official definition of this.
But you know it when you see it in the wild, because we have done a
Yes.
Spartan race,
Yes.
and that's when you're like, oh my God,
I've
this
done
is
the
why...
Leadville 100.
Yes, that is like, seeing that many hybrid athletes at one time is also mad intimidating.
I think it's really cool to be a specialist and to get narrow and to know what you like and have put in the time to see.
I just don't think going to the gym is a sport. I think
Thank
it's
you.
going to the gym.
Again, I think it's really cool to just know what you like and do that.
Yes.
And you don't have to do it all.
Mhm.
And I kind of think of the hybrid athlete as that athlete who wants to do kind of a lot
Right.
of different things. I have a pretty busy, full life, and I've only
But
got
being
time
a jazz
to do
musician
my
athlete,
runs.
does that make you a hybrid?
No, because
What about being a comedian athlete?
no, because that's an artist and an athlete.
What if I start calling myself an artist athlete? Absolutely no one will take me seriously.
Artist hyphenated athlete.
I'm gonna start
That's
introducing. I'm gonna change my email signature today.
That could go in your Hinge bio.
It's gonna go in my Hinge bio. Artist athlete.
I'm not hot on this, although we coach plenty of people who like to spend a lot of time in the gym and on the trails.
I don't coach any high rocks people.
No, I don't know what that is. That's not a thing to me.
It is
A lot of people.
Kylie works with a lot of high rocks people because they struggle with nutrition.
A lot of people like to get strong and go to the gym and also spend time on the trails.
Yep.
That's very normal. I don't know what the heck High Rocks is. I'm
You're gonna
glad
have to
I
do
don't
some
know about
YouTubing
that.
later.
I don't coach anyone.
My God,
who's
I can just
used
hear
that.
the DMs filling up. Jesus Christ.
Don't
I am
email
gonna have
us
to do
about
Cocodona.
this. We will disappear to Cocodona and
Absolutely.
never return to the space again. If you are the hybrid athlete, you do you. That's cool.
Great.
But I like to work with people who specialize.
Same, yeah.
Learn what you like, experiment, figure it out, and then try to get great at it. Become a master.
We do have coaches who are, I guess, plug for our other team. We have multiple coaches on the team who are, I would call them multi-sport specialists, who specialize in skimo running, who specialize in cycling and running, gravel cycling and running. So if that's you and you're looking for a coach, even though TJ and I are not your girls, we do have those people on staff.
We are certainly not your girls. All right. Run clubs, hot or not, there is a note here.
Yeah.
One note, if useful.
That's what I put down because I wanted to find some research on this.
So you tell us about this note.
Research does show that people run faster and longer in groups, and group exercise significantly improves adherence versus solo training. So if you struggle with motivation, run clubs can be good. The caveat here is the thing that is the bane of running coaches' existence is people who run too fast when they run with other people, which is all people.
Yeah.
Everyone runs way too fast at run clubs.
Slow down, guys.
Literally an elite athlete, and when I go to our town run club, I am one of the slower people because I am disciplined in my recovery effort.
We are always in the back of the group.
That's just a data point. So I love it. Social, great. Friends, great. All of this, it is really beneficial, but be disciplined in your effort. The solution isn't to speed up to match your friend. The solution is to tell your friend to slow the F down.
All right. So run clubs, hot or not?
Yeah, sure. Fine. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hot.
Hot.
Especially when used mindfully.
Yes.
Okay. Here's a hot or not. Last one, by the way, and then we're going to go into our listener question and into the main topic for today. Microdosing during ultra runs. We've sat on this for a couple weeks now. I don't know. I'm not super comfortable with this topic, but the question is microdosing with LSD or psilocybin during ultra runs a good or bad idea? And what does the research show? Is this even legal?
So I guess to address that,
depends on your state.
Status. Yeah. Both psilocybin and LSD are Schedule 1 federally in the U.S. Psilocybin is decriminalized. That doesn't mean it's legal. It's just not a criminal offense anymore in several cities and states, including Denver, but that's like not a huge swath of
I always ultra run in Denver.
Yes, exclusively. Neither is currently on WADA's prohibited list, so there's not a formal doping concern, but like you might get a felony drug possession charge. But not banned certainly doesn't mean safe or legal to possess. So
a little beagle at the airport,
on
the way to Chianti,
so
found your psilocybin.
I came back from Italy packing mad truffles, and I wasn't sure about the legal status of the amount of truffle I brought back. So because of that Schedule 1 categorization, there's basically zero peer-reviewed research on microdosing during exercise specifically. So most things we're dealing with here are anecdotal. I would like to see more research is like really where I come down on is like, let's decriminalize this stuff because of literally all the reasons to decriminalize these substances that we're increasingly learning are not that dangerous and mostly have been used to like incarcerate certain groups of people at scale. So let's not do that. And let's do some science would be my not so hot take. So there is some more general microdosing research from Johns Hopkins or Imperial College in London that shows modest benefits for mood and focus in clinical settings. But, you know, those study designs are clearly not going to translate super well to running 100 miles on a mountain.
I mean, there's a huge body of research on the clinical benefits of this in the mental health space.
For sure. So I'm a big fan of, I guess, psychedelic assisted therapy. Which I've done and would really love. And I am also a huge fan of seeing how exercise or time outside might also enhance those therapeutic modalities.
Have you ever done psychedelic assisted ultra running?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
How am I just hearing about this?
Well, I mean, it was back in my crazy Boulder grad school days.
Oh, your crazy days.
Yeah, I did some substances and then ran from Boulder to El Dorado to go swimming.
And what was that like?
Kick ass, man. Like, amazing.
Yeah?
10 out of 10.
Highly recommend. 250?
Cocodona. I'm going to get my Michael Versteeg on. I
didn't want to name any names on the podcast, but that is one person who, I don't know where I picked this up, but it is like
he was very open about it on literally all the podcasts.
Yeah, it's like very well known that I don't know if it was microdosing or what level
he was
dose,
like full dosing.
He was doing that at these really long ultras.
Yeah. Again, I just want to see science. I think that like all the evidence we do have suggests that these substances are not harmful in the ways we thought they were harmful. It's primarily, again, just been used to stigmatize certain groups of people that the U.S. has been like hell-bent on stigmatizing for all of time. So let's not do that. Let's do some science and like let's see how it might especially like I'm more interested in the potential mental health benefits than the like let's make running fun again of it all. So that's my like I guess overly earnest hot or not take here.
I think if you're running right in quotations, you can access a lot of the same feelings that you could possibly get by running assisted by psilocybin or LSD.
I mean, I guess like my experience with these, wow, this podcast is going into unexpected territory for 8 a.m. But I have found that these substances, I mean, again, because of their sort of chemical properties for me have functioned sort of like a year of therapy in an afternoon. And so
I mean that's well known,
right? And like that, I'm not alone in that experience, and I guess hopefully if sharing it helps other people on their responsible guided journeys, amazing. But if you could couple that with exercise, which we also have evidence that it can help with mental health, again, like it's not, neither of those things is a panacea, and I don't advocate for the use of either of them in isolation or sans support from an outside professional. But my thoughts would be that combining them could be extremely powerful for folks that struggle with stuff. And I would be really curious, again, as someone that does a lot of work in the eating disorder space, there's increasing evidence coming out about the use of psilocybin, particularly for psychedelic assisted therapy for eating disorder patients. That, and coupling that with exercise, I think could really help rewire some people's attitudes and thoughts, beliefs towards their body, food, exercise, all of those things. So.
Again, that's in a clinical space, though.
Yeah,
that's
but
working with a mental health professional.
I'm primarily interested in the clinical applications here, but also like if the downstream impacts of that is that people can microdose on their runs, that's cool too. That's just like not what I like am like necessarily like springing out of bed every day passionate about like manifesting in the world.
Fair enough. All right, listener question. I thought exogenous carbs weren't necessary for efforts under 90 minutes, even at hard intensity. A recent swap YouTube video said taking in around 60 grams of carbs during events under 90 minutes can be beneficial, specifically for how the brain perceives fatigue. As someone who does high-intensity sessions across multiple sports and trains for ultras, this sounds interesting, but is it something athletes should actually try in races under 90 minutes? Woof. Okay, so the classic rule and why it's only half the story here. So let's talk a little bit about this. The 90-minute guideline is all about the metabolism. Glycogen stores can support roughly 90 minutes of hard intensity. So the argument was you don't need outside fuel before that point. Like you have plenty, if you eat well, you have plenty of glycogen on board to utilize within those 90 minutes. And the logic is still sound. I think from a pure substrate standpoint, that's fine. That's a great rule to go with. But it does kind of ignore a second separate pathway, and that's, I think, what SWAP is pointing at here.
Yeah. So there is a neurological mechanism worth acknowledging. So there are receptors in the mouth and in the upper GI tract that detect carbohydrates and signal the brain immediately before any digestion occurs. Like the second like gel or Gatorade sports drink hits your mouth, your brain is like, excellent, fuel is incoming. So the brain interprets that as being fuel is available, and it actually eases its protective fatigue response immediately. So your perceived effort drops and your output can increase. And this has been seen across multiple experiments. There's research has shown this effect even when athletes only swish a carb solution
I think that's
and
so cool.
spit it out. No calories absorbed, performance is still improved. They've even done this with they had basically red sports drink. They had one that had carbohydrates, and then they also had one that was just basically
water.
red water.
It's just red water.
And still people thought they were taking in carbohydrates, and the neurological mechanism still worked to an extent. So even if no calories are absorbed or taken in, the performance still improves. This is not me arguing for you tricking your brain by spitting shit out on your runs, by the way.
Yeah, please fuel your runs.
Fuel your runs. This is just exploring the contours of the mechanism here.
So this is what we're talking about. It's not substrate delivery. It's more of this psychological effect.
So there is an issue of timing here, and the metabolic versus neural timing and the sort of different timelines here, because metabolic absorption of carbs hitting your bloodstream and then that going to your working muscle takes roughly 15 to 30 minutes. So the substrate benefit of a gel is delayed. It requires planning ahead, not reactive fueling. The neural signal, in contrast, is basically instantaneous. So receptors will fire on contact. So that means for those shorter efforts, when and how much you take matters differently depending on what benefit you're actually chasing of do I need carbohydrate available, or do I want to ease my brain's protective mechanism?
How intensity does change this equation, though. I think this is important to talk about, is glycogen depletion isn't just a function of how long you're running.
Yes.
It does scale with intensity. So at 85 to 90% of threshold, you can meaningfully stress glycogen stores in 45 to 60 minutes, not 90.
So if you're racing hard for less than 90 minutes.
Yeah. Right? Like if you're doing a half marathon,
Yes. Yeah.
it might make sense for in terms of replenishing some of those glycogen stores to have a gel or two during that effort, and also from a psychological perspective.
Yeah. So the metabolic case for exogenous carbohydrates does get stronger as intensity rises, even in sub 90-minute efforts, with the caveat being of like with added intensity, you're burning more carbohydrates. That also puts increased demand on your system and will make like the digesting and metabolizing those carbohydrates additionally challenging.
So just a couple quick takeaways for athletes, because I'm sure you guys are thinking like, oh, all right, this is new information. What should I do? One, arrive well fueled for your workouts.
Yeah.
You know, whether they're a 60-minute recovery run or a 90-minute endurance effort where you're running, you know, at a higher effort level.
Yeah.
Start by fueling your runs well before you even get out there. Second piece of this is smaller amounts of carbohydrates taken early in an easy to digest form could probably capture some of that neural benefit with, you know, not without overshooting GI risk.
Yep.
And if you're doing a hard workout, this could also help to provide you with some more glycogen downstream for later in the workout when things maybe are a little bit more depleted.
Yeah.
Higher intensity races, something like under 90 minutes, like a half marathon, for example. I think there's a real case for fueling during those efforts. You know, this is definitely something that you want to try in training first.
Yes.
Because when you're running really hard, there's a lot more stress on the GI system. So how much fuel you can actually take in and then digest could be limited. This is something that's trainable and you have to practice. Never, you know, experiment on race day.
Yep. Amazing.
Yeah.
Done.
All right. Love that. That's such a good one. I'm going to do a workout later, so I'm definitely going to have some carbs on board. All right. Segment number 1 here. Let's talk about your race at Chianti, and let's go through kind of how we would analyze your race, talk about the pros, the cons, what went well, what data matters. Context here for athletes is you ran a somewhat similar race, but not exactly the same course.
Yeah.
You ran
Which is annoying as hell.
Definitely way different weather conditions.
Very different weather conditions.
Finally broke that streak of every single trip
race
we take.
Just being famous.
Being in the rain.
Oh my God. Yeah. Last year this race was just 15 hours of rain and mud. Go back and listen to our episode from last year where we talked about having to hitchhike to the start line of this race. I didn't sleep at all the night before. Our car broke down. Like, it was just a literal shit show. And this year was like unproblematic type 1 fun. So that is, I'll take the win there. You
arrived. I was sleeping.
I was like the 6th person at the start line.
Yes, you arrived.
I got there very early.
Not 30 seconds before the race started like last year. It was not raining.
Yep.
I think you slept because you were snoring like ridiculously.
Perfect.
The night before the race.
Amazing.
And you ran an hour faster.
I did, yeah.
So that's really good context. But I think also for you, in our discussions about the race, there was frustration and it was hard to sometimes see where the real wins were and what actually mattered. So let's talk about what happened. Let's go through some of that information. And this can be really beneficial to athletes who are self-coached, who want to know, am I getting better? How do I see if I'm actually getting better?
Right. Well, I think the thing I was struggling with is I objectively ran faster. I also felt better the day, like last year felt a lot more like survival.
Well, hold on. Let me say one thing.
What?
You objectively ran an hour faster, but your pace per mile was the same.
Yes, which is
that messed
weird.
with you.
That really messed with me, and I got the same placement as last year. I got 13th last year. I was 13th this year, which is really frustrating because it also feels like no matter how hard I work, I'm just like barely keeping up with the women's elite field, and that's scary. Like, I think a lot of us feel scared about like being left behind by the elite. I mean,
it's just getting so fast.
Yeah. And like, I, am a later in life athlete. I did not do college sports. I did college comedy. And so I feel like I'm always just like barely hanging on by my fingertips to the women's elite fields and rolling into the corral next to, Courtney DeWalter and Rachel Intrikin.
At least you got to do a selfie with them.
I did get to do a selfie with them, and they're extremely nice people and extremely cool athletes and women. Shout out to them. And especially Lauren Puritz, who's kind of like my personal hero. Everyone should follow her. She's a gynecologist and I love her. And so it was a really competitive field. It was a more competitive field than last year, maybe. I mean, the whole field ran so much faster.
It was very deep, and the weather changed a lot.
The weather changed a lot. Throwing Courtney into the mix changes things a lot as well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that just drags everybody up.
Yeah. So I think the thing that was hard for me is like both years, my goal was to go into the top 10, and I fell short of that both years. Last year, I was way off my time goal. So I like to talk with athletes about having an A goal, a B goal, and a C goal. And a new way that I've thought of characterizing these that I got from my therapist, Dr. Laura, is a wig, wag, wog. And a wig is a wildly impossible goal, and then a wag is a wildly achievable
I like that
goal, and then a wog is a wildly obvious goal. So it's sort of like one that's like hard, achievable, obvious.
Right.
So
like
my
that.
wig was to go top well into the top 10, and I fell short of that, and which was frustrating because I was right on my splits the whole time this year, but I miscalculated the actual distance of the finish line. Yet again.
Right.
And that was really mentally challenging for me. But like looking at the data comparing the data from the past 2 years, I had the same intensity factor, pretty similar normalized graded pace, significantly better conditions this year, and I felt significantly better about my execution. I felt really disciplined and in control of my race performance, but I walked away still feeling really uncertain and
about your progress.
About my progress. I mean, like, on one hand, I know that I'm getting better, but I don't feel that it came out in that race performance.
Well,
and
I
that's
think
challenging to sit with.
You didn't get the validation of the result or the data saying like, oh, my IF was higher, so I ran this at a higher intensity, or my gap pace was faster than last year, so clearly I'm fitter. And that, I think it does create ambiguity.
Yeah. And so I feel like it's helpful to maybe chat through why looking the same and is the same aren't the same thing.
Yeah.
Because they were different courses, very different days. I am a different athlete. The fields were really different. There are some takeaways from the data that I think are cool and interesting. So I just wanted to sort of speak my frustration into being. I don't know. I mean, I don't listen to a ton of other athletes, like how they process their stuff, because I just have other
that's
hobbies.
not true. You listen to your athletes.
Yeah, no, I mean, but I'm not like to elites, like how like elites process. Like I'm not surfing YouTube all day to hear how other people like me or unlike me do this stuff, because there's only so many hours in the day.
Well, I think it's important to hone in on, what actually improved in the performance, and to look at this from, like a multi-dimensional perspective, and what data points truly matter. So, the reframe here is like, there is frustration, and that's really normal because like you didn't get the validation of some of those key.
Validation.
It is validation.
I don't like that word. It feels too emotionally loaded. It makes me feel like I'm like needy for data, but
we need to see obvious ways in which we have improved, and that produces a feeling inside of ourselves, whatever you want to label that as. It's totally personal, so we don't have to use the validation word, but like the data didn't show you, like in our typical data, right? Gap pace,
I'm looking for
IF,
signposts.
Right, those signs weren't there.
Yeah.
Placement was the same as last year, so that can be a source of different perspective and story. So I think both things are true. We can have misses, or we can like not have those signposts, IF, gap pace. We might have missed on those. But like, what other data can we look at? And what other feeling-based outcomes can we look at? Like, because both things can be true, the story is much greater than just two data points.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I also share this to normalize like disappointment, and I mean, grief is maybe too strong a word, but like, I'll say that I trained really hard for this race. Like every weekend I drove to Grand Junction to train. So that's
Yes, 3
90
hours,
minutes in the
more
car
than
both
3 hours
ways.
in the car.
I ran about 8 hours every weekend. There were many weekends where like I drove out by myself. I stayed there by myself, which I love. Like I think that was very helpful for me to get Zoe time and to like sink into myself and get comfortable with myself. So like no regrets. And actually for me, one of the like my gut check on like how am I doing is if the race, like no matter what the outcome of the race is, if I came in DFL or if the race got canceled at the last minute, or, last year where there were like a few minutes where it looked like we may not get to race because we were in the middle of Chianti trying to hitchhike to the start line.
We just sprinted up into that corral and like had to work our way through like hundreds of people.
I elbowed so many French dudes.
All of a sudden I was like
Je suis désolé.
Standing next to Jim Walmsley and Killian Jornet, and I was like, oh.
Sup, boys?
We made it.
What's
crazy.
up? TJ David in the house.
I did not get a selfie with those guys,
No.
Unfortunately.
And so for me, like regardless of the result, do I feel good about how I spent my time and energy? And to me, the answer is yes, even though I poured a lot of myself and I like took things off, like I said no to comedy shows. I said no to professional opportunities. There was work I didn't do. Like I sidelined some work on my book for a bit.
Well, there's a lot of
you can't do it
choices.
All. There's choices.
Sacrifices.
And I made choices, and even if the outcome isn't what I wanted, I still feel good about those choices. I felt like I was living in alignment with my values, and that to me tells me I was doing things right by my book. And still, it means I had a lot of time alone to think and daydream about this result and to imagine what could be, and that didn't happen. And so spending time sitting with and not trying to pathologize or resolve those feelings of disappointment.
What data points did you and your coach look at to help you change the narrative around this a little bit?
I actually will shout out my coach, Cliff, because this was something I did not see. And I think that this is a huge benefit of having a coach, especially sort of like when you're maybe a little more emotionally clouded because your dopamine is shredded from running for 14 hours and, you're a little close to the event to see things very clearly. My coach really wanted to point out looking at my cardiac drift and aerobic durability. So that's seen on Training Peaks as PA:HR. So what that measures is cardiovascular drift over time. Or did your heart have to work harder to maintain the same pace as the race went on?
Yeah. How coupled was your effort with your heart rate?
Yes. So the numbers in 2005, my cardiac drift was 9.54% in 2025.
Is that over the entire race?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is like,
that's not that bad.
That's not that bad for 15 hours of running.
Like,
it's
not great.
It's not great. I faded a good bit at the end of last year.
That definitely represents that.
Yes.
A good, like a really solid drift is somewhere between like
less than 5.
1 and 5%.
Yeah, 1 and 5%. Though again, for these extreme long events,
it's hard to not have drift.
You're gonna
for
drift. The majority of athletes are gonna drift.
Right.
In 2026, my drift was negative 1.39%, which means I was actually able to hit higher heart rates while going fast. Like I was able to access more intensity at the end, meaning I had great aerobic durability. So what a negative drift really means is that in practice at mile 53 or hour 10, the cardiovascular system is still calibrated, and that doesn't happen by accident. That's, for me, as my coach and I talked through, that's basically just years of keeping those easy days actually easy and building that aerobic durability. And I also did a boot camp that was really helpful. I did a 50K. I did 2 back-to-back 50Ks and then a 20-miler, and same thing, really trying to aim for that aerobic durability, forcing my heart to work at a certain intensity for long periods of time. So I was curious about this because, muscular endurance has been a big conversation lately with Scott Johnston coaching Ruth Croft and Tom Evans. And his thesis is that reaching higher heart rates later in the race is good and means that your legs aren't so tired that you're not able to push your system higher. But I actually will take issue with his classification there.
Right.
Because I it's more of a cardiovascular metric, and the late race lap data doesn't really support like leg failure story. So what I really think cardiovascular drift tells you is that your engine is holding. It doesn't tell you whether you had the right tools for every section of the course necessarily. So I think this is a big metric that I'm looking at, is like system got better. You can't fake better cardiovascular endurance. I
Right,
wore
I
a
mean,
heart rate monitor. Like, that data is solid.
that also tells us a lot about how good how good your fueling and your
Yes.
hydration were
Exactly.
as well, because decoupling can happen as a result of not having enough carbs on board, or also not being hydrated well. And when we do have good coupling, it does signal that I think you are able to really compete until the end.
Yeah.
And
I
it's
passed 2 women in the last 3 miles.
right, and that's literally what was happening, and you were closing in on that top 10. And, also there were other women who likely had probably similar decoupling.
Shout
There
out to
are,
their hearts.
yeah, the great athletes out there. And that's the fun of being in competition. And sometimes we don't always fall where we want to, but being able to compete to the end, I think probably meets your conditions of enoughness.
Yeah, that is really big. Like, that is the reason I like these longer events, is because the thing that excites me more than like almost anything on God's green earth is having the ability to push through the finish. Like, that is why I love hundreds and love longer events, is because I've personally never felt extremely animated by the idea of just finishing, but it's the idea of taking this thing that is like on its face kind of absurd and pretty extreme, of running 75 or 100 miles, but doing it well. And to
Right.
me, doing it well means competing and having the presence of mind and mastery of body to continue to push even through those last feet.
And I think that's the important thing here, because, heart rate coupling or decoupling only tells us one part of the story. That says, yes, your cardiovascular system was working well from the first minute of the race till the end, but what actually holds you back? Like, what is the gap between where you are and where you want to be in terms of, I don't know, maybe being 30 minutes faster
Yeah.
on this course or something. So there's some specificity that needs work. And what did you and Cliff kind of hone in on here?
Yeah, so one of the big things one of the reasons I like this event and it's challenging is because we live in Colorado, which is the mountains, and it snows here. Typically, this has actually been a crap snow year. But I'm not able to do mountain training in the winter. Again, I've been driving to the desert, but like, I think the most vert I got on any given long run, even like a 5-hour run, was maybe like 3,500 feet.
It's really hard to get a lot of vert.
It's really hard to get a lot of vert.
You have to really try for it, and there's a cap.
There's a cap, without doing like just insane shit of like repeating the same segment 90 times.
Yeah.
So I did build a bigger aerobic engine, but I didn't necessarily have all the terrain specific tools to fully deploy it. So vert is hard to accumulate. The good news is that gap is pretty easy to close quickly. I'm looking down the barrel of my next race being San Juan Summer Solstice 50, and I'm looking forward to getting a little more specific training in there, assuming the whole state isn't on fire before June. So I think that, there was some hiking specific conditioning and vert specific neuromuscular patterns that I left on the table just because I didn't have access to race analogous terrain.
Yeah.
We went out to California to do a boot camp, which was pretty close. Like, that was pretty solid.
It was good.
Analogous terrain, but that's only 3 days, which is better than nothing. You can get the repeat bout effect. My quads felt so much better prepared this year.
That's huge.
Last year, you and I were physically devastated after
dude,
unable to
bad.
sit on the toilet, couldn't get in and out of cars. This year, I was like,
you bounced back a lot faster.
I bounced back a lot faster,
you were
and I
moving a lot
felt
better.
way better because I was really intentional about like pounding the downs in my boot camp. So I think the good news here, even though it's like, my like technical trail running and like trail uphilling was a bit of a limiter. That's an addressable limiter. The fitness is there. It takes a lot longer to build fitness than it does to target some of those specific like skills. So, I'm not necessarily spinning my wheels. I'm just like not done yet.
So what's the practical implication of that for you for next year? Say you're doing the same race.
I mean, I think and this is like my takeaway last year is there's just a cap on how much I'm going to be able to do without moving to Chianti. Like that's the fact of the matter, and accepting that cap. And like for me, rather than freaking out about the specificity, what it means is like making the most of the access I do have, making the most of the boot camp, making the most of my trail weekends. And then instead of fixating on what I can't do, still being really focused on like, well, the thing that matters most is fitness. So rather than getting anxious and doing like insane shit to try to improve my technical trail running, understanding that being fitter is pretty much never the wrong thing.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
So
let me steer the ship a little bit here, because I think this is where, I see this a lot with athletes. I'm sure you do. And folks out there who are thinking about, well, I had this race and there's some indication that I have improved. It's in these mechanisms. I have, I look at these mechanisms and it's like, maybe there wasn't as much improvement as I would have liked, or for the inputs that the outputs that I had. And so there's like an instinct that when this happens, we need to go harder in training. Yeah. We need to add more volume, and we need to do things differently. I know we're human, so we all feel that initially. What conclusions did you and Cliff come to as what are the actual next best steps to make in this moment?
I mean, really, I think, I actually haven't had the full debrief with my coach yet. So there's like, holding space for this might change.
Okay.
There's not a ton we're going to overhaul, right? Like there's nothing that didn't work. It's more like, well, you didn't have access to a ton of specific terrain. Therefore, your performance on that specific terrain wasn't great. However, looking ahead to my next two events, which were both in Colorado, great. I'm going to have all kinds of access to the specific terrain. Boom. I also think like the sort of framework I always want to present athletes, like I guess my impulse after I finished this race and didn't get the result I want was immediately to try to find some shorter races that I could like
you're like, what races should I do? I need to go faster.
I was like, I want to run fast. I do like racing, and it's hard because the races I like doing are long, which means I can only do so many of them because of like reality, money, time, all this stuff, wanting to live a life that doesn't entirely revolve around ultras. So I understand that impulse of immediately being like, I want to numb this feeling of disappointment by like channeling it somewhere and trying to find a solution that may or may not actually be a solution. And the thing I always want athletes to think about is you can't just always do more and more and more and add on and add on and add on. I always want the first thing you think about to be like, what can I take away?
Right.
Like, what can I remove? I don't know that I have that answer for myself right now specifically, but I think that that's a really good one.
I think there are a couple key takeaways to think about here from a coaching perspective. And I'm not your coach, but I do think that when we consider like...
You do have a pretty solid front row seat, though.
Yeah. I mean, but I'm not your coach. So I just want to be really clear to the audience about that. We all think about wanting to do more or jump into, a certain event to try to appease that feeling that we had where, I didn't get what I wanted. But we have to understand that there is an actual cost structure when you do try to add more on. Where's your actual aerobic ceiling in this moment? And what's the fatigue cost of pushing, trying to push that up more and more across the week by adding in more intensity or adding in more volume? I think quite honestly, you're already doing a lot.
Yeah.
So trying to eke more out may not be the benefit. We may go over the edge of what we can actually adapt to and where the real quality is. And that's always a hard game to play. And so I think it's a lot more about going back to basic mechanisms of creating meaningful adaptations. Hard days hard, easy days easy, and recognizing that you had strong heart rate coupling at this race. And so that was a product of doing that.
Yeah.
And making your easy days genuinely easy and not being shy about that. So many athletes listening to this podcast make the mistake of running too hard in their long runs and too hard in their easy days. It's a very human thing, but we're all doing it, and you have to slow down. If you want better heart rate coupling, if you want to run better at the end of a 15-hour race, you have to train easier.
Yeah.
There is only one way to do that.
Correct.
We're going to build capacity. You have to do your workouts. You have to do your speed workouts. But in the end, to actually build your endurance engine, you sometimes have to go painfully slow. It's hard for your ego to accept that.
Yeah.
And you have to stop forcing it. Like, oh, I have, like, a common thing I hear is like, I don't want to walk uphills anymore. No, that's too bad. Like,
You chose the wrong sport, bro.
like, your physiology doesn't care that you don't want to walk the uphills.
Yeah.
But your heart actually says you have to if you want to get better. So we really need to make sure we stay out of that gray zone.
Yeah. To get a bit candid about how this played out in my training specifically, and like, I shared this in the hopes it will be helpful for other athletes. Of like last year, so I switched coaches in like October of 2025. So I went into Chianti, or of 2024, went into Chianti of 2025 with a totally new approach to training. And I was feeling good.
Yeah.
All of my long runs were like the fastest and strongest ever. I ran my first 100-mile week, and that turned into 100-mile weeks, and showed up to Chianti feeling great. And that was awesome. This year, I had that in my back pocket. Like, that was integrated into my foundation. I had an entire year where the baseline was much higher, and I did even more training this year, ran even more 100-mile. And this is not to say that like 100-mile weeks are the best or like some gold standard, or like it's all made up. It's all fake. Nothing matters. The universe is a black hole. So like whatever your 100-mile week is, great. And, but I did more training than I had ever done. But my long runs still felt good, but they weren't all the fastest ever. And that bothered me. I think especially because like women I run with are really, really fast. I often get in my head, like when I'm on Strava and looking at my friends who are elite athletes, I'm like, fuck, why am I so slow? Like, I feel good. Like I feel like I'm being really, really disciplined.
And you're able to handle that volume.
And only because I run slow. And I guess I'll be candid that like, did I have feelings about it? Yeah. Were they all positive feelings? 100% no. And I guess that I'm proud of myself for not letting the ego drive the ship. And I'll say that on race day, I felt better this year.
Yeah.
Like having a ton of, I guess this is how validation shows up for me, of like, last year, my long runs were all extremely validating. This year, my long runs were like extremely fun, felt great. I did more training than I've ever done in my life. And like, there were only like 2 weeks where at the end of the week, I felt like cruxy tired.
Yeah.
Like I ended 98% of my weeks feeling like I could do more.
Yeah.
And like, that's awesome. Like
That's
I had
huge.
much more capacity to absorb the work this year. And a big thing that I worked on with my coach, and that I feel like we've been talking about here, because it's like one of those concepts that when you integrate it into your psychology and physiology, and it kind of unlocks something for me, is understanding like if you're given an endurance run and you're prescribed to run it 5 to 6 out of 10 effort, there's no benefit at running at 6 out of 10 relative to 5 out of 10. But the harder you push, there is more fatigue cost.
Absolutely.
And so I made peace with not pushing harder, because there's no additional benefit really, but there is a cost. And so often I see athletes get suckered into this trap of like, well, if 5 out of 10 is good, then 6 out of 10 must be better. I must be building more fitness. And not really. Like we're still targeting the same adaptations with that 5 out of 10 as that 6 out of 10, but the 6 out of 10 has a higher fatigue cost. So it's going to limit what you're able to do more. And so instead of rounding up effort wise, I was really intentional about rounding down. And I don't really have a data point to point at here, but the way that felt in my body on race day, like I just felt really fit and sharp, even though I didn't feel extremely peppy in most of my training.
Well, and I think what shows there is one, naturally a really good taper, and two, the fact that you were able to handle those weeks on weeks of really high volume training. So, that's a really important, I think, takeaway for athletes to think about is, if I want to do more, and more is not always the answer.
It's almost never the answer.
Yeah, but I probably have to do less. in terms
Less
of intensity.
of the wrong things and more of the right things, I guess.
And I do
complicated.
want to mention one other lever here before we close out the
Yes.
conversation. But the answer, again, not necessarily more volume, but how do we bring up quality? How do we bring more precision to our training? And I think, you know, for an athlete like you who's looking at the gap between like, okay, I can run this race at 14 and a half hours. You know, to really break the top 10, I need to run this closer to 14 hours or under. I need to raise my lactate threshold. I need to improve my overall speed. What are the mechanisms for doing that? Well, we have to build capacity.
Yeah.
So we have to really, we have to have a very good understanding of where your current LT2 is, what your 1 hour effort is. Then we also have to clearly hit the right intensities in workouts. And we have to have the right workout design that allows you to hit those intensities. So that might mean shorter intervals. It could mean longer intervals. It really depends on what you're able to produce, but getting down to the nuts and bolts of like, are you actually at the right RPEs on these workouts, and really making sure that you're there. So you're like, if it's a threshold workout, accumulating enough lactate to, you know, teach your body to shuttle better. Or if you're doing a VO2 max workout, to actually be doing a workout above your 1 hour effort pace so you can truly push up your, you know, your overall capacity, and focusing on that execution could be the key to really breaking through at the next race.
Yeah. Well, you know, maybe we can end it there.
Yeah, I think so. And, you know, it's awesome that you ran an hour faster, really hard course. You got to race, you know, with Courtney in the lineup, which is always really fun, and other great
and
athletes.
A lot of other really awesome women. So shout out to all the women just shaping the sport for the better.
Such a stacked field, and like how close everybody was, like around like 10 to 16 in the women's field where you guys finished was just really cool. And to see you guys racing to the end was really, really awesome. And I think the big, you know, reminder here is growth is growth.
Growth is growth.
You might not see growth across every single metric in Training Peaks. It might not always happen with a specific placement result in your race, but find the signals that matter, create a positive story around those signals.
Well, okay. So I would actually say holding two things at once, like, yes, find a positive story. And another thing that I really this is fun that we're recording this today because it's sort of sandwiched between, I debriefed with my therapist / mental performance coach yesterday, and I'm debriefing with my coach tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things my therapist and I were really talking about is not trying to fix how I feel about the race.
Sure.
To just acknowledge the disappointment and not try to like beat myself into having a positive story about every facet of it.
Well, and I don't think you do need to have a positive story about every facet.
Because I don't.
It's important to really acknowledge how you feel, and you're an emotionally intelligent person, so you can hold...
Oh my God. Would you put that on my Hinge profile?
Probably not, because of the way you responded to that. But I think that it's important to recognize, I feel this way about this, I feel this way about this, and we have a spectrum of feelings and emotions about it. You don't have to change any of that. You just take that information forward with you and create, you know, a meaningful action plan for you that helps you do what you want to do.
I am ambivalent and motivated.
You are certainly not ambivalent, but...
Ambivalent means of two minds.
Yes.
Bivalent. I have two valences. One where I'm excited about my aerobic durability, and another where I'm sad that I wasn't in the top 10. So again, you know, I think that growth is growth, and sad is sad, and some races show major improvement, some show minor. So for me, the assignment is to keep reading it honestly, processing it, applying the actual lessons, and not like applying the actual lessons and incorporating those into training rather than incorporating my emotions into training. Not that the emotions aren't valid, they are, but like I'm not going to retool my training to fix how I feel on the inside.
120-mile week, Zoe.
Let's go.
Cocodona 250.
Get ready for me to never make dinner again.
Thanks, guys. All right, we'll see you next week. And as always, microcosmcoaching@gmail.com, microcosm-coaching.com. Love to hear from you. We'll see you soon.